Hello and welcome to FILMFEST München 2021. I am Julia Weigl, a programmer with the festival, and I'm very happy that I will be talking to the directors behind the amazing film Topside, Celine Held and Logan George. Hi, Celine and Logan. So great to have you here virtually with us because we cannot have you here in Munich. You've been working on Topside for quite a while, years of research, and it took you quite a few years to actually get started and then to shoot the film. Maybe you can tell us a little about that journey that you had to take.
I was working at a school on the Lower East Side here in New York through a program, an AmeriCorps program with underprivileged children. And a child was taken out of my class one day by Child Protective Services. And it never occurred to me that this was something that happened. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And his mom came to pick him up at the end of the day and he wasn't there. And it can all get really complicated and it all felt very black and white with no room for like gray at all. And so for us in writing this story, we wanted to make something that felt a lot more sympathetic, empathetic, or just kind of showing the facts and not just assuming guilt. So that's kind of where we started. We spent a lot of time in the tunnels. We made two documentary projects, video series, one on mothers and children who live in the system within homeless shelters, and one on people who are currently experiencing homelessness on the streets. And all of that was super influential in creating like these characters and the story itself.
What is it that interests you in like this particular relationship between a mother and a daughter, and also like taking on like the perspective of the daughter as well? That's what was really intriguing about the film for me as well.
Yeah, well, it felt very important to us that we were sort of experiencing the story, through the characters and weren't looking down and judging, the story and the context at all. So the way in for us was to tell it through the perspective of the 5-year-old. And we just feel like children are they're magical in their own right. And, whatever we write is never going to compete with what they're going to give you spontaneously if you give them the correct stimuli and give them a full breathing world. But it was always about sort of building as much of a 360-degree environment for her to operate in, not dictating her movements, and just allowing the camera to very fluidly respond and be very reactive, so that you sort of capture that magic that she's just giving off, responding.
Well, we also worked with her for about a year before we started production on the film. We met her May 2018. We picked the kids up. We got super close to the family. We were picking the kids up from school 3 times a week. And so we rewrote the character. We rewrote the script with her language, with her words. And I think she hopefully has a big career if she wants it. She's magical on screen.
What is it that interested you about being underground in New York?
There are photos of children who lived in the Freedom Tunnel in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I think in telling that story, it feels so surreal, but it felt like a cinematic way into quite a universal story of a mother and child, but also a story about poverty that wouldn't hopefully make viewers turn away from something that felt so harsh.
Yeah, and so bleak, of a context, and the dire situations that so many of our characters are facing. But to have, but yet this tunnel and the history of how these people really made it a home and took care of it as a space and built a real community down there. Felt like this beautiful balance and a sort of way to find something that was cinematically unique, be able to tell such a harsh story.
I read in one of the interviews that you gave that you really wanted to create a sort of immersive experience, and I think that's also part of the setting in those tunnels and underground setting. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little tiny bit.
The day and the night of it all becomes very amorphous, and you're not sort of sure how much time is passing, because that's true for our character. So we really sort of playing with that. It's in the edit, but it's also in the way that certain scenes unfold, that you sort of lose a sense of time and place, and that hopefully that the transition out of that space is so stark you know, the same way it is for a character for an audience because of how much time they've spent in these like this incredibly like dark environment.
Yeah, so I think that was already it. It was so great that you took the time. Are there some words that you want to direct to the audience, like they're gonna see your film?
We're so honored that you're here. This was absolutely a labor of at least 7 years of our life, a labor of love for a story that, you know, we hope that you can see both sides in. We hope that you can see both of the perspectives.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for taking the time.